Welcome into our final recap here of the 24 lacrosse season. Thank you for joining us, everyone. My name is Dane Stewart, and as always, these recaps are brought to you by Heidemann and Associates. If you have any legal needs, the experts at Heidemann and Associates can take care of you. Give them a call at 801-472-7742. If you tell them that Rewind sent you, you'll get a free consultation. It's a full-service law firm with locations along the Wasatch Front. They can meet with you virtually as well. And then, of course, we want to thank Tribal West Lacrosse for sponsoring coverage on the Utah Lax Report. Tribal West is your one-stop shop for all of your lacrosse needs. Go visit them in Sandy. You can also visit them online. They've got an online store where they can get all of your lacrosse needs figured out, including anything from team sales to individual. They'll get you back on the field in no time at all. Well, state champions have been declared in both boys and girls. We want to talk through the tournaments that we just went through and talk about some performances. Let's start on the girls' side, and we're going to start with the 4A girls. And, if you recall, we had an episode a couple weeks ago where we asked the Magic 8 Ball if there would be a team go undefeated. I thought that Bear River was the team best positioned to do it. And actually want to, give a shout out to 4A. I thought Bear River would probably roll through this thing a little bit. And while I think they were the most talented team, you can look at that semifinal against Waterford, a 12-7 win for Bear River. Or even look at that championship game where I thought Payson showed great resolve, really battling with Bear River as that game went on. Bear River goes undefeated. They go unscathed this year. Impressive year for Coach Jeremy Webb and the Bear River Bears, who return all sorts of talent. Shelby Wilkinson, makes a strong case for Player of the Year, and she didn't even lead them in scoring. That honor was instead with Mackenzie Mickelson, but then you had the senior J.C. Larkin step up big in that championship game. She had a hat trick. This was a very, very talented Bear River squad. But Payson held right in there. We saw Payson in that semifinal. They took on Timpanogos, a region rivalry. Big game for Carol Yost. We saw Morgan Jacobson. Haven't had a chance to see her this year, but boy, she was physical and one of the top goal scorers this year for Payson as well. Jacobson's a senior. Yost is a senior, but it was great to see some 4A teams stand up and compete with Bear River. Bear River, your state champions in 4A with a 12-9 victory over Payson, but love to see the competition in that classification. Thought Bear River would win it. They did. Had so much talent on that group or on that team, but it was awesome to see some teams continuing to grow in the 4A classification and give Bear River everything they can handle. Bear River, your 4A state champs. Let's move to 5A because 5A was something else. We thought 5A was going to be really, really tough, in particular because it's been Olympus and Park City that have really been 1 and 2 all year long. And we thought they'd have an opportunity to square up. We did get that opportunity, but before we dive into that, let's talk about the Highland Rams. Highland made a nice run in this postseason. Got to a quarterfinal before they ran into Park City. Highland team, young coaching staff, also have some youth on the team. They had some experience. They had some youth as well. It's a good blended roster there, but awesome to see Highland get a nice upset in the second round and get to a quarterfinal. Maple Mountain, how about the run that Maple Mountain put on? Had a great year. Region champs, I believe, out of Region 8, had a great year. The Golden Eagles got all the way to the semifinal. But, man, if you want to talk about a team on a run, how about the Brighton Bengals? This was a team that, had played in the same region as Olympus and Park City, lost to those two teams in region play. They had to go through West Jordan. They took care of business against the Jags, the Bengals did, and then they had to face number 1 Olympus. And this game, I think, was 10-4 at the break, if I recall. It might have been confusing. There were a lot of games played this last week. It was 10-5 at the break. And the second half for Brighton, my goodness, they came alive. And when we talk about experienced rosters, this Brighton team had so much talent returning with Izzy Gurley, who's a senior, Caroline Lee, Charlie Eigner, Sophie Nielsen, and they all just really stood out. Boy, the second half surge that Brighton put on, it felt a little uncomfortable there in the final minutes. Kind of had the feel that if this game went on for another 2, 3, 4 minutes, Brighton would get the win. But Olympus able to hold on 12-11. And I always say that teams that win state championships, they get battle tested somewhere along the way. And that seemed to be the battle test for the Olympus Titans. They got that win over Brighton 12-11. They did face up with Park City 1-2 in that championship game. Low-scoring championship game. You kind of figured it would be just because that's how it feels like every Park City Olympus matchup is, whether it's on the boys or the girls side. And this one, Olympus got off to a good start in this one, 5-3 at the break. They outscored them in the second half as well as the Olympus Titans get back to the top of the mountain. They won 2 years ago. They lost last year in the state championship in Park City. They're back as the state champion. And this was an Olympus team littered with talent. I mean, we had kicked around the tires on, doing some award winners and potential MVPs. I mean, just put the whole Olympus roster on there if you're going to talk about MVPs, because you talk about a group. Sarah Ane, what a year she had. She was fantastic this year for the Olympus Titans. I want to say she might have led them in goal scoring. She was one of their top assisters. Oh boy, for a women's sport. I didn't even put that together until just now. One of their top assist players on the year. She had 69 goals for him this year, 52 assists, 121 points. Big year for Sarah Ane and the Titans. And then, you got to factor in Hannah Nelson, Hazel Baker, Lizzie Ane, all those other players that make that team so talented offensively. And then Sydney Rossi. We were on a game, and I think Kenzie Christiansen might have said she might be the best keeper in the state. She was phenomenal and again, made just enough plays to get past Brighton. But Olympus, you're 5A state champions as they took care of business against Park City. Heck of a year this year for the Olympus Titans. Believe they just finished with just the one loss, if memory serves correct, and that was to Foothill out of California, their only loss of the year coming out of state. Congratulations to the Lady Titans on a big year this year in 5A. They are your 5A state champions. Let's move to 6A, shall we? And 6A kind of had the feel like we'd get a new state champion in 6A. We've not had a repeat in 6A. Mountain Ridge won a couple years ago. Lone Peak won it last year. And this tournament went pretty much chalk into the semifinals. Riverton taking on Mountain Ridge. Fremont taking on Farmington. That's 1-4-2-3. This was a heck of a round. The semifinals in 6A, if you watch those are going to be stories that live for a long, long time. Mountain Ridge came into that game against Riverton. Riverton had already defeated them multiple times this year. And then here comes the Mountain Ridge Sentinels. And we talk about a young group or an experienced group in the likes of Clark and Chalk, but it was the junior Olivia Cannon. 7 goals for Mountain Ridge in this one as they got off to a big start in that first half. Tried to hold off a Riverton surge late as Riverton, boy, they looked sharp the back half of that second half as they were trying to mount the comeback, the number 1 seed, but not enough in the tank as Mountain Ridge able to hold on, get the 13-12 victory, upsetting the top-seeded Riverton Silverwolves in that semifinal. And then the other semifinal, the game that went on forever, a rematch of what was a region championship game the last week of the regular season. Just to remind you, Fremont lost to Farmington early in the regular season. They both came into their regular season finale with just one region loss. The winner of that took home the region championship. It was McKaylee Sargent who hit the game winner at the horn against Farmington to give Fremont the region championship and likely the number 2 seed in the 6A state tournament. These two teams would match up again in the semifinal. And this was one where, man, went back and forth, back and forth. You want to talk about players having a big game. How about Allie McCauley, the junior? She finished with 8 goals in this semifinal. 8! Had a huge game for Farmington in this one as this one went back and forth, back and forth. McCauley had, I think, the game-tying goal with about a minute and a half to go for Farmington as this game ended up going in overtime. And we do want to just take a moment because playing goalie is something else in lacrosse, and especially for girls lacrosse where you get so many opportunities where you're basically defending one-on-one with an opposing player from 8 meters out. There's a lot of pressure on those goalies, and it was fascinating to see. Souza for Fremont gave up that goal, and her whole defense came over to her and just grabbed her head and just gave her a bit of a pep talk. And man, that was what she needed, because Souza shut out Farmington the rest of the way. She made big saves to finish off regulation and in the first overtime and in the second overtime. We'd go to triple overtime in this one, and it was McKaylee Sargent, the senior, just doing what she does. She scores in triple overtime to lift Fremont past Farmington. Back-to-back games where Sargent beats Farmington on a goal that decides the game, that walks off with the game because she scored at the Horn in the regular season and she scores the golden goal in triple overtime. What a matchup this one was. Go check it out. Go rewatch it. This was a phenomenal back and forth game. What a semifinal it was. And so then you walk into the championship, Fremont, Mountain Ridge, and this one, boy, Fremont came into this. You wonder how much energy they had to exert in that semifinal. And boy, what a game. Aslan Williams got off to a great start in this one, scored 4 goals in this, had a hat trick in the first quarter. Sargent also came through with a hat trick. The senior helped lift her team. I think in the second half, she got a lot of her goals, at least 2 of her goals, maybe all 3. As Fremont able to get past Mountain Ridge, and the Fremont Silverwolves, your 6A state champions, the first state championship for Fremont since this sport became sanctioned. Congratulations to the Silverwolves. Sargent, Souza, Jeffries, Button, Williams. There's so many players we could talk about on this group. Very balanced offensive attack. Was one of the top offensive teams, one of the top defensive teams as well. The Fremont Silverwolves, your 2024 6A state champions. What a year it was in girls lacrosse. We do want to talk about just a couple of things here before we switch to the boys. If you go to Max Preps, you can see the final rankings this year. And when you look at all classifications, Olympus, your overall ranked number 1 at the end of the year. Park City, number 2. Fremont, number 3. Mountain Ridge comes in 4. Riverton at number 5. I have no problem with those rankings. I think we said for a majority of the year, Olympus, Park City looked like they were the 2 best teams in the state. Max Preps has it that way as well. Fremont, I'd actually love to see Fremont take on one of those 2 teams. I think it'd be a really interesting battle, but you're going to get no qualms with me about Olympus and Park City being 1, 2, Fremont, your 6A champion, coming in at number 3. Bear River came in at number 6 overall in the state at the conclusion. One more thing that we want to talk about just real quick. How about some of your statistical leaders on the year? Now, we started shying away from doing players of the game. We didn't want to bring a lot of individual attention, but there are individuals who deserve attention with the season being over. How about the year for Mackenzie Mickelson? 114 goals, a phenomenal year for her for Bear River. We talked about her and Wilkinson. Shelby Wilkinson, by the way, 85 goals, 57 assists. She was 5th in goal scoring, 1st in assists. Big year for Shelby Wilkinson. Mickelson, Wilkinson, the duo, a big reason why Bear River went undefeated. Olivia Prosper, we talked about her. She is over 100 goals again. She has the state record now for most goals in a career. And by the way, she's coming back. She's got 1 more year. Pretty good year there for Shelby Wilkinson. We talked about some of the players for Olympus, Hazel Baker, the Anay sisters, Nelson as well. Just absolutely fantastic year for the Olympus Titans on the girls' side. But those are some of your top statistical leaders. Our apologies with that as we talk through the kind of the conclusion of the year. One more item I want to throw out there real quick. Annabelle Kiefer, great year for Brighton. We talked about that Brighton game against Olympus in the semifinal. She was one of the top save percentage for a goalie. Rossi had a great year for Olympus. Annabelle Kiefer had a great year for Brighton, made some big saves as Brighton was trying to mount that comeback in the semifinal. Wanted to get her out there as well, give her a shout out on the girls' side. All right, let's move to the boys' side, shall we? And we'll go through this in a similar fashion. We'll start with the boys 4A state tournament. I think a lot of people, including myself, thought this was Judge Memorial's state championship to lose. The number 1 seed in 4A. They've been battle tested. They went and played some upper classification teams with some mixed results, but got some wins against those teams, had a couple losses against those teams. Undefeated in region play. Judge came in, number 1 seed, took care of business. First round, second round, decisive wins. They battled with Green Canyon. This is a team in Green Canyon, had been your only 4A state champion on the boys' side. Judge gets them in the semifinal. And when that game started, you could see, boy, there's a size disparity. Could the physicality of Green Canyon wear down Judge Memorial? That was quickly answered. The answer was no. Rome Swanik, boy, this guy, so athletic and so quick with his shot. And he gets a lot of headlines because he leads them in goal scorings. But Sean Jerome, Fred Gowski, those are 2 other names you need to be familiar with. Love the defense as well. Kranich, I am a big fan of Dylan Kranich. Ben Beaudry had some big plays in this one. Dallas Matina, they call him Tatanka, the big Buffalo, the sophomore. He was great for Judge Memorial at faceoffs this year. Their goalie was phenomenal as well. This is a complete team as Connor Nystrom makes some big saves against that Green Canyon team. Judge comfortable over Green Canyon 14-5. The other semifinal, a rematch from Region 11, Skyview and Ridgeline, as Ridgeline, the 6th seed, made a nice run in the state tournament. They got past Juan Diego in a 9-8 battle in that second round. So a region rematch here, and it was Skyview, the offense of Ballard and Bishop. Too much for Ridgeline in this one. Ballard had 6 goals to lead the way. Mo, Hellstern, amongst others. Checkett's very, very good offense for the Skyview Bobcats. So it'd be Skyview and Judge heading in that state championship game. And Judge, boy, you worry about the youth, the inexperience. Skyview has been to state championship games. They've lost to Green Canyon. This time the Wolves not in the mix. Judge Memorial came to play. A 6-1 first quarter for Judge. It was 10-2 at the half. Judge was dialed in. They were ready to go. And the bad news, folks, they're all coming back because most of this team are sophomores. Yeah, you've got some seniors in there. Jack Wood, William Yarsh. There's some seniors on this roster. But when you talk about their goal scoring, their face-off, some of their D-pulls, their goalie, they're coming back. And they took care of business in 4A as Judge gets the victory in the 4A state championship. 13-8. The Judge Memorial Bulldogs, your 4A state champs. Congratulations, Coach Broska and his young Bulldogs. They're not pups anymore, folks. These are full-grown Bulldogs. And by the way, they'll still probably put some meat on them before the end of their prep careers. Let's move to 5A, shall we? We thought this had the chance to be the best bracket amongst all the classifications. Brighton gets the 1 seed. Olympus the 2. Park City the 3. We'll get into some fun nuggets with that one. This one, not quite chalk. Northridge got some revenge on Roy. Remember, Roy leapt them last week of the season. Roy got that win against Northridge in region play to close out the region schedule. But Northridge would face off against Roy in the quarterfinal. Northridge got the win, so a 1-5 matchup, Brighton-Northridge, and then 2-3 Olympus Park City. Brighton taking care of Northridge as Brighton was sailing in this tournament. They sail in that semifinal. How about Olympus Park City? One of these years, Olympus is going to get Park City. I thought it might be this year. They got them in the regular season, but Park City was not going to have that happen. This game was back and forth, was tied early. It was tied through 3. Go to the fourth quarter, back and forth contest in this one. And Park City scores with, I think it was about 90 seconds left to go up 7-6 in this one. That would be your final score. Olympus had a couple of great looks at the end, couldn't get them on cage, and Park City defeats Olympus in the playoffs once again. Second or third year in a row where that's happened to Olympus. Park City back to a state championship game to take on the Brighton Bengals. If you recall, the regular season matchup of this one ended in a way that no other game I've ever seen has ended. The goalie goal by A.J. Silianoff. That was the deciding factor that created the 3-way tie atop Region 6 and had 1-2-3 Brighton, Olympus, Park City. Would we see part 2 of that in the 5A state championship? No, because Brighton came out. Look, this game started just kind of the way we thought. Brighton scored early, and then Park City kind of slows this game down a little bit. Brighton gets a couple of late goals, including one right at the horn by Gabe Carrera. Made it 4-1 at the end of the first. And you just kind of wonder, okay, is that going to be the straw that breaks the camel back? Park City gets this tempo back into how they want it. It's 4-2 at the break. Second half comes out. Brighton again comes out just like they did in the regular season. Couple goals, and this thing then takes off. And Brighton able to outscore Park City 6-1 in the second half. The offense of Brighton. And should mention, we talked about some players that we would kick around for an award. If there was an overall MVP, it's Mason Frey. And as good as the offense was for Brighton, and it was fantastic this year, Mason Frey's the goalie of the year. I think he's the best goalie on the boys' side, the keep for the Brighton Bengals. He was phenomenal. In this game, he came out, and you could tell he was like, I'm not losing again. And when you watch how that game ended in the regular season, Mason Frey, after he gave up that goal in overtime, slams his stick to the ground and walks off. And you knew there's the fire behind a player who's going to play at the next level, and you knew if he got another whack at Park City, he would take the most of it. And he certainly did. Now, you might say, oh, well, Park City doesn't score a lot. How about this for Mason Frey? In a state championship game, he made 18 saves on Park City. 18 saves. Only gave up 3 goals. You want to talk about bring your best in your biggest moments? 18 saves on 21 shot attempts. That's a pretty good save percentage. What is that, like 85%? Mason Frey brought it in this state championship game. Had to give him a shout out because he was spectacular, and he's a big reason why Brighton ends up as your 5A state champion. Congratulations to the Brighton Bengals. In that championship game, Carrera had 3 goals. Salinas, Anderson, Harris each had 2. By the way, Andrew Salinas did not play in that regular season matchup. That guy is a great initiator for this Brighton team. Looked very different with him back on the field. They got other guys, Taylor and Anderson and Wismer. That ball moves if you're Brighton. It's never stagnant. Really fun offense to watch. Mason Frey, though, what a year for him. Duck, as they call him. Duck, congratulations, man, on a big year and also on some retribution for that regular season. The Brighton Bengals, you're 5A state champions. All right, let's move to 6A, shall we? I think 6A this year felt like it was a little more open than it had been in years past. Corner Canyon still the 1 seed, but didn't look like it was the Corner Canyon that we've seen in recent years. Hadn't had quite the dominance, hadn't had quite the scoring that they'd had, but this defense proved to be extremely tough. How about limiting Bingham to only 3 goals in a quarterfinal? They get to a semifinal against Farmington, a rematch of last year's semifinal. And Corner Canyon doesn't get off to the same start they did last year. I think last year they went up like 10-0 or 11-0, or it might have even been worse. That game came out, they were firing early. This was kind of back and forth early, and then Corner Canyon in the second half did not allow a goal. It was 7-3 at the break, did not allow a goal in the second half as that Corner Canyon defense shut it down. By the way, we talk about top goalies, Mitch Phippen. You don't tend to associate, well, you should, because that Aiden Santee a couple years ago. Mitch Phippen was great this year for Corner Canyon, by the way. And when I make a statement of Mason Frey being the best goalie in the state, I stand by that. But Mitch Phippen is right there, right behind him. Mitch Phippen was fantastic in the playoffs as well for Corner Canyon. We'll get to that here in just a little bit. So Corner Canyon gets over Fremont, or over Farmington. Davis Fremont, the other semifinal, a rematch of the semifinal from last year. These were great regular season games as well. They split this year. Davis gets off to a blazing start in this one. Big lead at the break. You kind of wonder, where's Fremont's offense? What's going wrong? It was 8-2 at the break. It just didn't look like Fremont that we'd come to see over the years. Second half, tides turn. Here comes Fremont. They get going. Isaacson, Searle. Before we go on, if you want to see maybe the goal of the year, maybe goal of the year by an offensive player, because that silly enough goal is something else. How about this goal from Davis Searle? Man, you don't see a lot of goals like that. The one-hand catch and shoot, and to finish it, congratulations, by the way. Davis Searle, now second in the record books for most goals in a career. Can you name who's ahead of him? I don't know if you can. It's his teammate Carson Isaacson. Now, these are multi-year players. John King, Mason Quick, they were 1 and 2, did not have all 4 years of this being a sanctioned sport. If you were to bring that in, they would hold the record. Unfortunately, matter of timing, as far as the record books are concerned, it's going to be Carson Isaacson, Davis Searle, 1-2, I believe, if my research is correct, as your new top scorers for a career since the sport has been sanctioned by the UHSAA. Fremont second half comes out, offense gets going again. They find some rhythm, and they've got this ball 3.5 minutes to go, and they give it up to Davis. Davis able to take some time off the clock, and the Davis Darts finally get over the hump and get to a state championship game to take on Corner Canyon. What would that look like? Man, you walk in, having never been to a state championship game, and you take on the only team to ever win the top classification, be that Class A or 6A state championships. Corner Canyon has not lost in the playoffs since the sport has become sanctioned. How would you be if you're the Davis Darts? Well, this game started well. 4-3 at the end of the first. Corner then second quarter started to pull away. And it looked like, oh boy, Davis just doesn't have the horses, just can't quite keep up with Corner Canyon. Second half, Davis started to look a little bit differently. And then the fourth quarter, the Darts turned it on. They did not allow a goal by Corner Canyon in the fourth quarter. I don't remember the last time Corner Canyon was shut out playing starters in a period against a team from inside the state. It doesn't happen often. You go back and watch the state championship, there are some crazy stats that we list off about Corner Canyon, including their goal differential in the 4 years of this being sanctioned It's unworldly. Davis shut them out in the fourth quarter. Chargers did not score. Game goes overtime. In overtime, Corner Canyon doesn't score again. We go to a second overtime. This one is back and forth in the overtimes. Both teams had multiple opportunities. But how about this moment? It's the freshman for Corner Canyon. We talk about this Corner Canyon team didn't have quite the electricity of offense as in prior years. And there's no knock to this offense. But you didn't have a John King. You didn't have a Mason Quick. You didn't have a Blake Frankowiak. You didn't have a guy. Well, you did in the likes of O.J. Ika and in Kaisen Muramoto. But while Kaisen had a great year this year, he stepped his game up another level being a senior. O.J. Ika is just a freshman. And so it was, you don't have an established guy that's done this for multiple years. And could that carry the load? Ika had some phenomenal goals in the postseason, had a pair in this state championship game. But how about the freshman coming up to make the play at the end to win it for Corner Canyon? By the way, this young man does faceoffs for him as well. So absolutely love the resiliency by Corner Canyon. Love the defense that we saw, especially as Davis got going. That Corner Canyon defense found a way to hold them off in the overtimes and allow someone to step up to make that game winner. Phenomenal job this year by Coach Ika, who, by the way, in case you hadn't heard, done at Corner Canyon. Coach Ika is stepped aside from Corner Canyon, going to go be a father and spend time with his family. So one of the legendary coaches in this state, one of the best to ever do it, at Corner Canyon will not return next year for the Chargers. That'll be interesting to see how that program continues the momentum that they've built. I'll tell you this, they got a lot of guys there that will be coming back, and this will be a really, really strong Corner Canyon team for the next couple of years because people have said if you're going to get corner, it better have been this year. And Davis was right there on the doorstep. Couldn't quite get it done in the overtimes as Corner Canyon, now your 4-time defending state champion. Congratulations to the Corner Canyon Chargers. We want to talk about a couple of things just like we did on the girls' side, your rankings. If I had to pick a team who's top in the state, I'd say Brighton. I would have said that before the tournament started. I know they lost last game of the year. They defeated Corner Canyon. They defeated Olympus. All they needed to do was get retribution on Park City. They did that. And if you go to Max Preps, look at their rankings overall. Brighton, your number 1 seed at the end of the year. Corner Canyon in at your number 2. Olympus number 3. Park City number 4. Interesting that Park City is below Olympus. They split in the regular season. Park City got them in the back half. Also had the win over Brighton, but did have a couple of other losses along the way. So they were at 4. How about Snow Canyon being number 5? Now, UHSAA or Southern Utah not sanctioned. I hear that's coming. Haven't verified that. But Snow Canyon, didn't get a chance to see them as soon as they come sanctioned. Then hopefully we'll see them in the state playoffs. Davis coming in at number 6, Fremont number 7. How about Judge at number 8? Your 4A state champions finishing the year ranked 8th. By the way, in the coming years, they'll be higher. Let's move to some of your statistical leaders. Just like we did on the girls' side, your top goal scorer this year, Rome Swanek. We talked about him for Judge Memorial, 75 goals. Mentioned O.J. Ika, and I feel like a little bit of a sheep saying that they didn't have a Blake Frankowiak or a Mason Quick or a John King. They did. He's just a freshman, and it was O.J. Ika. What a year for him. 70 goals for O.J. Ika to lead the way. We talked about Davis Earl and Carson Isaacson. They're going to be top the record books in terms of their career scoring goals, as long as those get submitted correctly. According to my math, that works, but I did go to school in Idaho. I will just add this. Davis Searle, 69 goals this year, had 57 assists. What a year for Davis Searle. What a career for Davis Searle. Finished with 126 points this year. That led all scorers in the state of Utah. And by the way, we mentioned earlier, that little piece that Dane did, taking shots from Davis and Carson. That duo, they were each over 70 goals last year. They were at 69 and 67 respectively this year, Davis and Carson. So they continue to score at unreal paces. Great careers coming to an end at Fremont. Easton Ballard up there as well, 66 goals this year to lead the way for Skyview out of Smithfield. The other thing I'll add about O.J. Ika, and I didn't realize this until I was looking at this for the show, he had 70 goals. Yeah, that's phenomenal for a freshman. Had 47 assists as well. O.J. Ika finished second in the state in points, and that's as a freshman. Unreal. This kid is going to be something else by the time it's all said and done. What a year for him. We talked about Mason Frey, my opinion, best goalie in the state, and a 716 save percentage, including in that state championship game when it was even better than that. Mason Frey, heck of a year for the Brighton Bengals. Oh, all right. Another year in the books. We want to thank you for joining us. Man, what a year it was. These state tournaments were unreal this year. We had so many great games, semifinals, championships. We tried to bring as much to you as we could, and we're only going to grow more and more as years go on. We want to thank you for joining us both on KSLSports.com, where you can catch live game streams, as well as on the Utah Lax Report. I know we started the podcast a little bit late. We're going to be on them for next year. Now that we got this kind of sorted out, we've got one more interview coming up before we close it out for the year. You're going to want to stay tuned, stay subscribed to the podcast for that. But want to thank you for joining us. It's been a great year as we continue to grow our coverage of both boys and girls lacrosse here in the state. It's fun to see this sport grow. Appreciate all of you that come up and talk to us. Appreciate your patience with us as we continue to learn the sport and as we try to bring more content to you. We'll continue to grow this, bring some new things to you, but appreciate you being with us all year this year as we've taken you to state champions, some new, some repeated on the boys and girls side in the respective classifications. Thanks for joining us. For Vince Francis, my name is Dane Stewart. We will see you next year for lacrosse coverage here on KSLSports.com and on the Utah Lax podcast. Of course, we want to thank our sponsors, Heidemann and Associates and Tribal West Lacrosse. And check out the podcast. Come back later this week. We'll have one more interview we'll bring to you before we wrap up the year. Thanks for joining us. Congratulations to all of our state championships, or to all of our state champions, all the players on spectacular years. And we'll see you next year right here for our lacrosse recaps.